we will go deep into the realm of the unknown and question everything as we search for the truth. We will explore the possibility of countless phenomena within the ultra spectrum, and together we will learn that it is all connected. This podcast is brought to you by the Experiencers Support Association, and it is a live stream broadcast. If you have a question, send me a super chat or become a YouTube member. This podcast is brought to you by the Experiencers Support Association. Take a seat, relax, get ready, and welcome to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. Today is Thursday, May 26, 2022, and I, Ryan Stacey, am your host this evening. I'm a licensed private investigator, citizen journalist, and the director of investigations for the Experiencers Support Association. I'm the former national chief investigator for MUFON Canada and the former international field investigator trainer for MUFON in general. Welcome to the channel, and thank you for joining us this evening. To super chat, click the $ next to your name in the comment box. Tonight's theme is galactic ambassadoring and shamanism. For our guest, our guest for season 4, episode 17, is Tanys Coughlan. Tanys is the founder of the Twillow Lifestyle Community and the Twillow Lifestyle Academy, which is she is an international teacher and speaker. Apologize, I have a really sore throat tonight, and I'm not realizing how much it's affecting me. Excuse me. She's a registered Reiki master and intuitive healer, and is a member of the International Association of Reiki Professionals, which is otherwise known as IARP. And she's also part of the Reiki Healing Association. She received her, I always get this, I'm not sure, is it Celtic or Celtic? Celtic, we'll say Celtic Shamanic High Priestess, Aqualead Master, and she's a Crystal Master certification at a few years ago, and is following her life's purpose. Pardon me. Tanys uses her channeling and intuitive abilities to help people understand themselves and others. Tanys works with those who are looking to create more meaning in their lives. She helps them transform and evolve on their healing journey to self-discovery. Through energy healing, spiritual practices, mentoring, and teaching, she helps others to find a more meaningful, healthy, and balanced lifestyle by gaining a sense of well-being, understanding of emotions and energy. She helps people connect to their higher purpose and explore their spiritual gifts. So, Tanys, put on your tinfoil hat. We're about to go down a rabbit hole. How are you doing this evening?
I'm good, thanks. So
good.
Honored to be here.
Great. No, good to have you here. I'm sorry about that. I didn't realize. I told you I had a bit of a sore throat, and then everything got caught. I'm really sorry.
No worries. It is Celtic.
It is Celtic. Okay, okay. I was just like, I never know. You see it, you read it, and it makes sense to me. I'm gonna say Celtic. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's great. Thank you so much. I know you had a lot of you got no power.
No.
You're in Ottawa, right?
Yeah, we had that big storm on the weekend, so we've been fighting no power since then. I'm at a friend's place, which he graciously allowed us to come and do this. And
well, thank you, friend, and thank you for being here and making it. I'm glad to have you here. So we're going to start with the icebreaker, which Cece has made. So I'm just going to play our little jingle here. All right. So Cece asks, in your opinion, what is something we aren't speaking on enough in society today that deserves more attention? Good question.
Oh, there's a few.
All right.
There's a few things. One, of course, is that ET connection, right? One of them is those. I think that we need to start talking a little more about that. And I think that is happening. There is more and more coming up for that, which we need to embrace that a little more than we do. I think another thing is talking about your energy systems in terms of your health, mental health, physical health. They all kind of go together. So I think that is another thing. And the change in the vibration of the earth, because that is affecting everybody's gifts. So everybody has the ability to have clairvoyance, clairaudience, psychic abilities. Everybody has those. Telepathy. We just don't tune into them.
So you say that with a lot of confidence. I don't know, like with Tessa, what I've been trying to do is try to prove that, because I believe that, but you say that like as if you know that. So you know that.
I know through my own experience that really the more that you start to change yourself, the more they come in. And so there is science to back up the energy piece. And my experience and my clients that I've worked with, as you raise your vibration, you start to open up your perception of things. Okay. So we all vibrate between 63 and 78 megahertz, right? We're on the earth vibrates. It's measured through the Schumann resonance scale. Schumann resonance has a baseline of 7.8 hertz, right? We've had spikes since 2012 up to 300 on certain days. And so with that vibration, of course, we are on the earth. It affects our vibration. So our vibration has raised on those days as well. And this creates a greater expansion in our sensitivities. So kind of like a dog whistle. Okay. So a dog whistle, we can't hear it because our hearing range is here and the dog whistle is out here, right? As we raise our vibration, it's like opening our perspective like this, our awareness. And so this opens up those abilities. And as you get closer to those higher vibrational things, we start to be able to tap in to that vibration, that frequency. Okay. So as the earth vibration raises, we raise, and our vibration does this, all of a sudden that dog whistle is not that far out of our range anymore. And so we start to be able to tap into that kind of thing.
So that is explained well in such a way that I can relate to that with what I know now. And I don't want to go to recaps on all these other things too, but it took me a long time to realize the possibility that is what was actually happening. I've denied it. I've denied a whole bunch of other things as to reasons that I just explain it off as a weird, bad day or something, or a good day. So in your opinion, like how are people affected by that without knowing that this is happening? Like, what is a normal day like for someone to experience that?
So there's a couple of things that happen. So, and I can best describe this by telling a story, actually, if you'll permit me. So all my life, I had anxiety. Didn't know why. All the way till I was like 40. Okay. I have not done all of this work really until I was 40. Before that, I was in business world, in home healthcare, in management positions, all of that. Okay. So I started taking Reiki. And as I went through my Reiki levels, I started to raise my own vibration, do the healing work on myself, and that became a thing. So I go for this particular discussion, we're talking about how it affects you, right? So the anxiety piece. So I'm sitting in a class. I was a level 2 Reiki at the time, and it was a Reiki with crystals class. And I was sort of in touch with the guides, but wasn't really. Like, I was still kind of like, okay, I'm kind of aware they're there, but I'm not really sure. I don't hear them, don't see them yet. It was just kind of there. It was kind of a knowing, I guess you could say. So I'm sitting in this class, Reiki with crystals, and all of a sudden the teacher's talking away. We're all in a circle. She's talking away. She stops mid-sentence. She looks at me and she goes, "You have ascended masters yelling at you all the time. I don't know how you focus on anything. You need to take care of that." And I'm going, wait, what? I have what? So I talked to her after class and she's like, "Do you have anxiety?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Do you have trouble focusing?" "Yeah." She's like, "Yeah, because they're yelling at you all the time. You need to take care of that or they're going to drive you crazy." So one of the ways that we're experiencing this is an increase in things like ADHD, like anxiety. Because if you think about it with my dog whistle example, if you had a dog whistle going all the time, you wouldn't know necessarily that it's going, but you would
still feel the effect and you would hear it, and you would not know why.
Exactly. So it's all acting on your energy field, whether you realize it or not.
So how does that compare to? I'm starting to understand astrology a little bit more through Dave Petrella and my wife too. She's very into astrology, and we have in what I understand is a retrograde, and that affects. I found this has affected me like a few days before I realized it. I was like, I'm just what's going on. So is that similar or the same thing? Different? Like how is?
Well, it's all energy, right?
It's energy.
So it's variations in energy, because the planets where they sit all affect the Earth, right? They
Which
affect
changes the vibration and changes all that other stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. We have solar storms where we get solar mass ejections that come into the Earth's atmosphere, creates a change in the Schumann resonance scale, which in turn creates a change for us, right? Because we're on the Earth.
So the science is there.
It is.
Yeah. And then, so that's what we need to talk more about is how it's affecting. We're totally skipping the original question, but we're gonna go back to that. But good question, Cece, because you derailed right from the start. So, is it possible that there's some counterintuitive measures that are in place to offset this vibration so that we don't evolve in this positive way, such as no power in Ottawa right now?
Yeah, you could say that's Mercury retrograde, like to the max. But yes, I would say there is, because the things that raise our vibration are things like meditation, positive thought, right? So positive thoughts raise your vibration by 10. Meditation raises it by 25. So we're talking megahertz here. So the more positive thoughts, the higher your vibration gets. So why not instill a whole bunch of fear into the populace, which is a negative thought, which actually brings your vibration down by 12. So the more negative thoughts we get fed through our programming and all of that, the more it keeps that vibration down, which means that we can't tune into these upper frequencies. We can't have that exchange of energy.
And it affects the entire world too, because even though I'm not in Ottawa, we're talking about it, I'm aware of it. But I mean, there are thoughts too about what if that happened to us? Are we prepared? And there's things like that. So that negative thought instilled, even if it's accidental or whatever, I haven't looked into it to find out why. I guess it's just a storm. That could be legitimately the real reason, but you never know. It could have been planned. But still, like that impacts the entire world. So,
and we're all connected, right? We are all connected with energy.
Exactly. So I feel like we're going to get into the answer to how, and I want to kind of derail it a little bit to learn why you are the way that you are. But I'm interested. I'm hoping by the end of this we can kind of figure out how we could all evolve while avoiding these pitfalls and these little challenges. Because if more of us vibrate, then more of us tune in, then more of us understand. Exactly. That's the theory, right? So tell me how you got here. Where did this all start? Like you said, you started doing the work in 40, but like, did you always had an inkling to go this way? Paranormal, UFO, anything like that?
Well, yeah, I've always had like an interest in that. And I've had my own experiences along the way. I'm a spiritual warrior as well. So I do some work with the other dimensional frequencies in terms of light versus dark. And so that, I've seen a whole lot of stuff in other dimensions. I wasn't conscious of seeing that stuff. I have had memories since of seeing it when I was little.
Okay.
But I had blocked it out because, of course, as a 4-year-old, which was the one that I remember now, it was kind of scary seeing stuff that was not supposed to be hanging out in your room. Right?
What did you see?
Dark figures standing in the corner of my room. Yeah. Like red-eyed dark figures kind of thing.
Okay. The shadow figure, like that phenomenon?
A shadow, yeah, probably. I actually think it was a little bit more than just a shadow figure, but,
Okay. Are you comfortable talking about that?
The D word. Yeah.
Like a demon?
Yeah.
Okay. And what's the difference between, how did you know it was demonic?
Well, I didn't know at the time, of course. At the time, I
Mm-hmm.
was just scared. Now that I've had the training and stuff, I know that that's what it was when I went back. Because I went back and cleared some of that stuff.
So at the time it was, and that's where it started. Somehow, but you were able to see it at a very early age. You were able to see that, like, like there's a lot of things going on, and me paying it, like, I use me as an example because I'm learning, but I'm realizing the possibility of these things existing, but I really haven't had a whole, like a holy shit, this is real moment. But whereas now you can go back and say and have answers for what you were experiencing then. So the reality though is that you were able to see it at such an early age.
I think I felt it more than I saw it at that stage.
Okay.
I've always been an empath, so I've always felt everybody else's emotions, had the typical empath behavior stuff, right? The people pleaser, the wanting to keep the peace everywhere, because of course, as an empath, you feel the energy when things are not the way that you want them to be, right? Even if they're not in a happy space, you feel that, and it affects you physically. And so, I guess I had a couple of other experiences. I had an experience, so I blocked that stuff out. I'll step back a little bit to your original question there. So I had that when I was very young. I may have had other experiences at that stage, but I think the fear of that really blocked it for me to a certain extent, my consciousness of it anyways. And then around 16 or so, I was hanging out with some friends. And of course, you're like, yeah, let's do a seance. Because you think that's a good idea at that age. Don't do a seance, I'm just saying. Not unless you've got special training. So we did a seance, and it was before like cell phones and all of that stuff, right? And we're sitting in my mom's living room, and my friend says to me, okay, so if the doorbell rings or the phone rings, you need to answer it because it was at my house. And I'm like, okay, sure, whatever. So we get into the circle, and everybody in the circle but one person knew this friend of mine, knew my granny. And my granny had, yes, Stacey. My granny had just passed away like a few months before. And so we decided we would call on her. But none of us thought anything was going to happen, right? A friend of mine had been reading about them, and so we were like, yeah, sure, whatever. So we get a candle going, and have something of hers in the circle and all that stuff. And we're in this circle. There's maybe 8 of us or so. And so we start in, and I ask for a sign, and the phone rings. And I'm like, yeah, she's probably set this up or whatever, right? That skeptic in my head. I'm like, yeah, okay. I pick up the phone, and it's totally dead. There's no dial tone. There's no sound like there would be somebody on the other end. It's like the phone is unplugged, dead. I was a little freaked out at 16. I was like, okay, what the heck is going on here? So we hang it up. I go into the other room with this friend who had done the reading, and I'm like, okay, we need to stop this. I'm not feeling comfortable with this in my house, right? And she's like, no, we have to continue. And as she says that, the lights in the room flicked on and off twice. Not just once, twice. It's like, okay, I guess we need to continue. So we go back, and we do the whole granny show us a sign thing. And the one person that didn't know her was sitting next to me. When I asked for a sign, he starts to shake, like almost seizure kind of shake.
Wow.
He had his eyes closed. He was calm. There was no, it wasn't seizure in terms of like, they get the saliva and all that. It was just, he was shaking. And I was like, okay, thank you for the sign, like hoping it would stop. It didn't stop. We continued to talk to her. I had a candle in the center, like a big pillar candle with a flame. And as I would ask her questions and stuff, the flame would actually go one way or the other, so much so that we had divots in the wax on either side. It wasn't just like a flicker one way or the other. Like there was no way it was just the wind. So I was like, okay. And it was kind of a family joke. So when Granny would watch the Rough Riders games, they would lose. So the Rough Riders is our local football. So I told her during this thing that she's got to stop watching the Rough Riders games because they keep losing. And my experience, this was one of the first sort of empath experience, was that I felt, you know, that feeling in your stomach when you're having a belly laugh? I had that in my stomach, but I wasn't laughing.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, that's weird. Almost like that, you know, that roller coaster kind of stomach, right? Yeah, it was kind of weird. So then, and keep in mind, my friend is still shaking beside me. So then we finish up and we're like, okay, thank you for coming. Goodbye. Right? He stops shaking and we all start to get up and he's like, are we going to do this? And we're like, we've been at this for 20 minutes. You don't remember? Oh, no, I don't remember anything. I'm like, interesting. So that was a pretty heavy experience. We then had my granny as a ghost in the house after that experience. So we would have lights would go on and off at various times. Not a flicker, like turn on when they shouldn't turn on, turn off when they shouldn't turn off. My granny used to like to go and sit in my bedroom and knit because I was on a different floor, and she'd turn on my clock radio. So we would go out and we'd come back and the light would be on in my room with the clock radio on. And we'd come home and it would go out and they would go off. So those kinds of things would happen when I was as a teenager. So after that kind of freaked me out again. And so I backed away from all of that stuff.
Interesting.
So the only sort of indication that I was kind of heading that way, again, was in university. So I have a social science degree and I had to take an elective. And two of the classes that I took in university have ended up serving me now, not so much back in my previous career. So one of them was, it was a religions class, and it was witchcraft and world religions was the name of it. So I get into that, and I wrote a whole paper about Wicca.
Okay.
Then the other one was death and dying class, which, as it turns out now, I help people cross over after they've gone. And so it's important for me to be able to, and I deal a lot with clients with grief. Okay. So, so those kinds of things were indicators, I suppose, along the way.
You just had this inkling, this path that was undefined, but it became defined later on. It all makes sense, but like your walk through totally up to that point, like it was just
average.
But you're connected to things, right? You're just having some connection. Okay, keep going.
Not conscious of it being a connection.
Right.
That's the difference.
Mm-hmm. I think that happens to a lot of people.
It happens to almost everybody.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. But some people are more conscious of it than others. And some people become more conscious and connect the dots, which is what I've done. So people
pretend to be conscious of it and not actually be it? Or does everybody have this ability?
I think all of us have this ability. Okay. I think, yes, of course, you can pretend to be. Mm-hmm. You can pretend to be more tuned in than you are. Yeah, you could. But that will come back, like it'll come out, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For sure. You can't pretend to know stuff that you don't know and then have it come true, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're talking about psychic stuff,
Yeah, so the ability's there, but then the skill, then we look at the skill sets and experience and all that other stuff too.
Yeah, and discernment plays a big role in that sort of thing too, right? There's a lot of psychics out there that'll go ahead and they'll just say whatever comes through. And in many ways it's a disservice, because if you create fear in people, you're not healing them, you're not helping them heal, you're just giving them more stuff to work through.
Right.
So having discernment and clearly sort of using those abilities to heal others is a big thing too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. What happens next?
Okay, so then I went into home health care.
Okay.
I was a home support worker out in the field for the first few years and didn't know I was an empath, right? Got burnt out. Wondered why I was burnt out, and I was bringing home my work all the time in terms of stress. I had a work injury and got diagnosed with fibromyalgia. The recent years, there's been some research in the fact that there are quite a few people that identify as physical empaths that have fibromyalgia, like a very high propensity.
Interesting.
I don't think there's any like double-blind studies or scientific research in terms of that, but there seems to be a very high percentage of people that identify as physical empaths. So what I mean by physical empaths is we don't just feel the feels, people's emotions and stuff. We actually feel the physical pain and stuff in other people's bodies. And so I didn't realize I was a physical empath until I started doing Reiki. And I had a gentleman come to me regularly. He had been an athlete and was doing a whole lot of, he'd done a lot of sports and he got a lot of injuries and all of that stuff. And he now has arthritis that was pretty widespread. So it would move around his body and stuff. So we were trying to get a handle on his arthritis. So he was coming to me every week to see if we could get a handle on his arthritis. And every time he'd get on the table, he wouldn't tell me anything. He was one of these guys that wanted me to just do the job, right? So I get into doing the job. And every time I would start in on it and I'd be like, oh, my shoulder's killing me. Why is my shoulder killing me? All right. And yeah, I had fibromyalgia. So I was like, okay, well, maybe it's my fibro, whatever. At the end of the session, I would step away and it was fine. And inevitably he would be like, my shoulder's way better. Thanks. And I'd be like, huh. And the next week it would be my knee or something. Same thing would happen. So I went to my Reiki master. I'm like, what is going on? Why am I feeling this guy's physical pain? He's like, she's like, oh, honey, you're a physical empath. I'm like, oh.
So yeah, you're absorbing it. That's interesting.
Yeah. So I would feel the other person's pain in their body.
So how would you transmute that out of your body? You absorb it, you take it, but what do you do with it?
I'm not really absorbing it. I'm just feeling it.
Just feeling it. Okay.
So I'm not taking it on in terms of letting it sit in my body. It's more like a message. And that's what I came to realize. So empathy or an empath or clairsentience, which is what the broader term is how we receive messages.
Right.
So I was just receiving my messages in that way.
Were you receiving his thought of pain, perhaps, and received that thought, and then therefore?
I think it was more of a reading of his energy field.
Yeah. Okay.
I would put my hands in the field, and I would feel what the field is feeling, and I would feel that in my field.
Interesting.
That seems to be how it works, anyways.
It seems to make sense, though. Science can prove that. I think that scientifically explains the energy transfer. It's a transfer of energy. We are energy beings, so when we connect, when we hug, when we do things, when you walk into a room and you can just feel it. There's like, you don't want to be here. There's someone in this room, so that makes sense. So that's amazing. Yeah. And a total human, natural, organic thing by the way you've described it. Do you think it has anything to do with extraterrestrial, paranormal, anything like that? Or is this something completely separate? Are we just gifted human beings and then there's ghosts and there's aliens?
So for me, the connection is very much about the different dimensions. Okay. So we are connected to we're multidimensional beings. So we work on different dimensions all the time. The guides have actually explained it to me, which is an interesting analogy, but they showed me like this glass office building when they were showing me how we're multidimensionals. So if you have a glass office building in front of you, and we're like on the third floor because we're third dimensional beings most of the time, right? That's that physical dimension. And then you've got your open shaft where the elevator would be, right? So we can have like 80% of our consciousness or awareness at the 3D level, and we could still be working with 10% at the 4D, 10% at the 5D, or higher. Or it could be 2% at the 12D, right? And then the rest down lower. And so we are multidimensional beings, and we're working at all these dimensions all the time. our energy field is tapped into those different dimensions as well.
Mm-hmm.
So there are different beings that live in the different frequencies, much like the dog whistle, right?
Mm-hmm.
It exists at a higher frequency. We're not aware of it. The beings that are around all of us all the time, by the way, exist at different frequencies. They are out of our visual range, out of our hearing range. So we're not aware of them.
So we coexist.
Mm-hmm.
Are they creators?
Are they creators? That is a good question. I think that we are all creators, and that would make them creators as well.
Okay. So we both evolve separately, but mingle interconnectedly.
Mm-hmm.
Don't really understand each other, sharing the same space, but yet sometimes, somehow we're communicating to them without knowing about it. So why not make a full transfer from one dimension to the other? Because we have, with the seance, you were using a method and a tool with a group of people to connect to a different dimension, not knowing whether that's the 4th, 5th, or right to the 12th. You don't know what's coming, but you're just trying to use the elevator, if you will, to follow your analogy.
Yeah.
What's stopping the CEO coming down and saying hello to us on the bottom floor?
They do.
Everyone? All time?
Yeah. They're around. Okay. You can ask them. We have free will, so they can't interfere with our life unless we ask.
And if they didn't create us, then who created them? Or are these dimensions like infinite?
My teachings say there are 12 physical dimensions.
Okay.
And 7 spiritual dimensions. That's just the teaching. So I'm mystery school trained. And so in the mystery schools, they teach a certain way, right? Related to the Kabbalah. It's Hermetic teachings. And so what I have learned about those other dimensions is related to that.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's right or wrong, because I think we have a whole lot more to discover yet in all of that. So what my gut tells me is there's more than that in terms of dimensions. There's way more that we can't even begin to perceive. I think the 12 is what's is in our sort of realm of possibility, perhaps, to perceive. Above that, I would say.
Now, when you say we, do you mean like us on the 3rd floor?
Yeah.
Now, if you were to place the government, who is supposed to know all things because they're in charge of us, are they on the 3rd floor, or are they on another floor in this? No. In terms of knowing.
So when I say 3rd floor, I'm talking about like 3-dimensional beings.
Yep. No, I get it. I understand.
Yeah. They are 3-dimensional beings. They're human. So
do they have the ability to communicate more effectively with those in a higher tier?
Have they done the work?
We don't know.
Then we don't know.
No, so it's just interesting. I do a lot of I'm following you with this, and I'm probing a little bit, because
please,
there's always those thoughts of government intervention, or government suppressing, or government not revealing information. And we'll tie into that when we get into AEDC and diplomacy. But I kind of get this feeling that they're no different than us. No. They're just responsible for explaining the things that we can't even explain ourselves. So they have to say something. Otherwise, we're just there's no conformity.
That's right.
So I was just putting a little bug in your ear there to get an idea of where you are. And I don't think you're one of those anti-disclosure kind of individuals. Full spiritual, loving.
I don't. I mean, I think that. I think there's a reason they don't tell everything they know, and I think it's I can see this from a spiritual perspective, because if they did tell everybody and everybody was in fear, you're going to lower the earth vibration, because the more fear we have, fear is the lowest vibration emotion. Love and joy are the highest vibration emotions. So when you tell people something that's going to create fear, it lowers our vibration. It takes us away from our evolutionary goal.
Which makes sense as to why information is controlled and leaked systematically, so that way more kids start, there's that variance. If 10 people are enjoying it and only one person is not, then okay, then we can do a little bit more. But if everybody's having a problem with it, then okay, we need to try something else.
Right.
So that's what I was trying to get at, is the government involved in that process, meaning communicating with beings? What about physical beings?
My gut is telling me yes. Do I know anything for sure? No.
No. Okay. It's all good.
My gut is telling me yes, they do know. My gut is telling me that they have been using interpreters, channelers for years and not talking about it. But like I said, that's all speculation on my part.
See, there's choice too, right? So these higher beings are able to communicate with us, but we're just learning at this level that we're able to communicate with them if we do all these things. But we didn't learn all these meditations and yogas and things like that until Eastern medicine, and Eastern came over to the West. Even though all those things, it was still separated. So there's a bit of suppression and all those other things too. But there's choice. So these higher vibrational beings, if I'm using the term properly, choose to interact with us. So why do you think they chose you to relay these messages versus, or do you think they're just putting the message out there and whoever picks it up is going to pick it up?
I think that we have a predisposition to, or a soul contract, you might say, to do this kind of work. So perhaps we are in a position that it is unearthed more easily for us, those of us that are more sensitive to it. I know I've had many lifetimes here, so I've had a fair bit of practice with this stuff on Earth. But I think that everybody is capable of tuning in, right? So I think that it came to a point. So for me, I went through 2 burnouts. I ended up in management in home healthcare and had 2 burnouts and was like, okay, I need to do something different. I need to do something differently in order to be more well-rounded and feel healthy. And that's when I found Reiki.
Okay. So
I find that, people tend to get to, and they talk about this being the dark night of the soul. You get to a time in your life and it's almost where that soul contract comes up and you need to step into it. And that's sort of how I see what happened to me. I wouldn't have changed if I had not had a chaotic time, right? Chaos is what creates change. If we don't have chaos, everybody's very comfortable to stay where they are in life. Because as humans, change scares us because we don't know what's coming. So nobody will change without some kind of an impetus to do that change.
Well, they want reassurance that change is going to lead to a positive result. People don't want to change in case there's a negative, right? Because they enjoy what it's the hope of that being better.
Yeah.
But it's also that uncertainty that you're not quite sure if it works, which is why we have a lot of people looking into the afterlife or looking into the other side, because why do we endure what we do for such a long period of time? Because we hope that there is an afterlife. We hope that there is another place that we go to and all these other things. So to come back to I really like your building complex analogy, and that's why I keep using it. It's a great way to describe this.
We can thank them for that.
Well, yeah, I'm
Metatron, I believe, Archangel Metatron that brought that through.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, if you're listening.
He is.
So go back to the D word, the demons. They're lower vibrational beings from what I understand. and we're talking about higher vibrations. So we're in the third level, third dimension, third level, and we're trying to communicate with those on the top. Are these demons in second and first, or beneath, or are they also on the third? Where do they fit in this?
Sort of a different scale.
Sort of on the building across the street, the smaller one,
yeah.
the basement.
You have to remember, demons are fallen angels.
Yes, upset angels, and that are didn't get what they wanted or whatever. We don't know, right?
Right.
But, and humans are capable of being good and bad. God is capable of being good and bad. Like if you read the Bible and pay attention to what God does, God is ruthless. He's not a great guy. If you pay attention to what he does when people don't follow his command. But we're capable, and they're capable. So these fallen angels are demons, in your opinion. Same thing?
I would say they would be in the same category.
So are they actually demonic, or are they just normal beings from another place that have fallen, that are just choosing to do things that create a low vibration, and they're affecting us for some reason in order to prevent us from vibrating higher?
They feed off fear.
Right. But they need fear in order to survive.
Right.
So
they create fear in order for them to survive. So how do they do that?
That's that ebb and flow. How do they do that? Yes.
Showing up in kids' bedrooms.
Yeah.
Among other things.
It looked terrifying.
Yeah.
Because the way that it looked, the red eyes, did they communicate to you? Did they tell you they wanted to cause harm? I don't know how well you wanted to go into that, but I mean, you're pretty certain that they're, with your experience, that they intended to lower your vibration?
Yes, I know they did.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We don't need to go any more into that. I understand. Okay.
Yes. There were some incidences that definitely have required my own healing in terms of
I understand that. And it's just sometimes try to give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they were just showing up, but
I think that people, so this is going back to our first question from CC. When you talk about things that people don't talk about, right? Was that what the question was?
It's stuff we don't talk about enough in society.
Okay. Yeah. Ghosts would be one of those things for me too. Okay. Because people think they're all like demons. That is not the case. That is not the case. People tell me, aren't you afraid when you see ghosts? I'm like, are you afraid to go to the mall?
Yeah, when you see people, they're capable of being good and bad until you bother them.
Exactly. Yeah. So are you afraid to see people?
Yeah.
When I first tell people about ghosts, and they're a little skittish, and they're like, well, I don't know if I want to know about that. I'm like, well, they're like somebody's grandparent, it's not, there's just as many good ghosts as there are good people at the mall versus bad. Because if you're looking at average population, that's often the case. We may have a slightly higher percentage because, the ones that have unsettled stuff tend to be the ones that stay back and don't cross over. And sometimes the ones that are good get a little confused and don't even know they're dead. Those are fun. Because part of my work, I found out, was actually crossing people over. And so I came across that partway through my journey, and somebody showed me how to do it. And then I realized that was part of my mission, because I'd end up with 300 of them standing there waiting for me to do something. So I was like, okay. And so I started crossing them over, basically showing them a tube of light that they were to go into. And so, I've run into all sorts in that journey.
And you do that because you want to do that, or because you feel you have to do that? Is it your mission? Is it, like you said, soul contract? Do you enjoy doing your soul contract?
I don't know. It just is. It just is.
It's just natural, right?
Yeah. I mean, I know when I have to do it because I feel the heaviness around, and I know that it's time. I have a spirit guide that shows up when it's time for that. I have this big black raven that will like fly right by me when it's time as an indicator. That's kind of a cute story, actually. So when I first started having that, I was like, okay, if this is supposed to be an indication for this, you need to put it like right in front of me so that there's no mistaking this. You know, I don't want to be like, because I was a skeptic when I started all this. I was like, I don't know what all this stuff is. And so I said, you need to put it right in front of me if this is meant for this as a sign. So 2 days later, I'm sitting in 4 lanes of traffic, and I'm in one of the middle lanes, and we're at a stop sign or a stoplight in rush hour traffic. And this black bird comes down and lands right near my driver's side front tire on the road.
Dangerously close.
Traffic. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And then it flew away when I realized it was there. I mean, why would it come and sit in the middle of traffic? Why would it do that?
Not very intelligent bird, and just a coincidence, things like that. But you know, there's symbolism behind seeing these spirit animals. Do you know what the symbolism is behind the raven specifically?
There's various ones. The raven specifically is related to death and stuff.
Okay.
And transition, right? So death is a transition. It's, you know, it's not so that's another part of this, right? When we realize that our soul actually goes on, and then it's not it's just like changing form. So death is not an end, it's just a change. It's like moving from Ottawa to Toronto, right? You're changing your environment. Only in that case, you're changing your body. You're leaving the body and you're going somewhere else. So it becomes, now here's another scientific fact for you. Did you know that they've actually done studies that the soul actually weighs 3/4 of an ounce?
They can measure the weight of the energy? How do they do that?
They measure people right before death.
Okay,
right
measure them after death.
And there's consistently 3/4 of an ounce difference in the weight.
And they don't move them or nothing. Like that's not the blood coagulating and the fluids. Like
right after.
Like a second.
After. Yeah.
Huh.
3/4 of an ounce difference.
Interesting.
So the energy, energy weighs something. We are all energy. So the more energy we carry in the meat suit, we weigh more.
Yeah, the meat suit. Yeah, that's a good one.
Sorry, I know it's a little.
No, it makes sense. It just reminded me of Supernatural. That's what they call it, meat suits. I have seen studies where they've had a thermal camera that showed, the energy leaving the body. I've seen things like that seem to be pretty compelling. The as beautiful, as great as it sounds to know that there could be a place to go, does it have an effect? We have a lot of these things where it's, these idioms where it's like it's my time to go. I'll go when I'm ready to go, and it's my time. You've been selected, and we always say these things when tragedy happens. But what happens if somebody makes that choice for themselves? Does that have an effect? Is there a hell? Is there a heaven? Is there a decision? Like what you're able to communicate to these people, you're helping them go. Yeah. But like, do you choose whether they're going to the light or they're going to hell, how do you know where they're going?
No, I don't choose. That's not my role. My role is like traffic control.
Right, but can you have any indication of where that light is leading them? No. None.
No, that's not my job. We're all on a need to know basis. I don't need to know that. My framework, my personal framework. Yeah. I don't believe in hell.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that, if you're looking at dimensional frequencies, this could be seen as that. We're here to learn. That's what we're here for. Isn't that what hell is about? Because really, hell is about punishment.
Well,
right? Or justice.
Yeah,
Justice.
interesting fact with Satan. Why is Satan so bad if he punishes those who do evil?
Mhm.
Right? He should be encouraging them. Right? So the facts aren't straight. Okay, tell me. Let's do a turn here about the Celtic Shamanic High Priestess.
Celtic Shamanic High Priestess. Yeah.
That's it. And then you also mentioned you're an Aqualead master. So I want to know what those both are.
Okay, so a Celtic Shamanic High Priestess is a combination teachings of Celtic shamanism and Wiccan High Priestess.
Okay.
And so it is taking the Celtic shamanic teachings. So there is shamanic healing that comes along with that, doing journey work, which is what shamans do. And then there's also the Wiccan teachings that go along with that, right? Being very in touch with the moon's phases and being in touch with the earth and the vibrations of the earth and using those things to create change in your life. So, when we talk about magic, for instance, part of metaphysics, the alchemy and all of that, magic is really about taking all four elements and mixing it with energy to create a change, right? That's alchemy. So when you make homemade soup and you put love into that, you're making witch's brew. Just saying. So you put energy into that you make soup for somebody that's sick. Yeah, there's a healing brew.
And soup always, I can always tell when my wife loves me because I'll have the same thing and it'll taste different. But if I make it, there's no love. I don't, so that's exactly. Good. I believe that.
Yeah, well, you put energy into things, right? And that's what creates it. So you're creating change by putting energy into it. Now, the difference between light magic and dark magic is how you use that.
Okay, so intent, motive.
So I always give the example, a love spell. That's the easiest one to describe. So a love spell. You do love spell to bring more love into your life, whatever that may be, right? Universal love, family love, friend love, romantic love. I mean, you can have the intention of whichever. You can make it specific or not. But if you do magic to make that person fall in love with you, you are taking away that person's free will.
Right, which makes that dark magic.
Dark magic. So anytime that you take away someone else's free will, that is dark magic. And that comes with karmic blowback, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. Because then you're intentionally wanting something, but it was meant to be, it was meant to be, and then therefore there's reason that person has rights. Needs to, okay.
Because free will is a prime directive, which is why the guides can't interfere, by the way, unless we ask them to. Because
prime directive. There's Star Trek reference. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Awesome.
And that's what the guides tell me is prime directive. So, TV comes from somewhere.
Yeah, no, that's it. Yeah. I'm a conspiracy guy, so I'm trying really hard not to pull you out of conspiracy and drive you down a rabbit hole. But
you can try.
Well, no, I've already tried and failed, so I'm just trying to not do it. I'm trying just not to do it at all. It's just for me. Maybe it's just me because I'm trying really hard to believe it. And I know like you and yourself and many others just know. And a lot of experiencers just know. And as an investigator, I'm trying to figure out the who, what, where, and when, not the how, not the why. I'll never be able to figure that out just to make sure that what they're encountering is as you described, and it's natural, it's pure, and it's beneficial, it's good, it's positive. And I'm finding it, I don't know, I haven't had my in my face moment where it's just
So I have a question
real.
for you.
Yeah.
How do you approach this? With your head or your heart?
Well, both. It depends on what's going first. It depends on what I'm trying to do. Because I can relate to the soul contract. I can relate to receiving messages from the higher people in this, I call it a direct line from the CEO. So that's why I really like that analogy with the building, because I just assumed the boss was talking to me.
Yeah.
In some sense, but I'm not comprehending how or why it's possible. And I think that has to do with how I feel, because I'm not comfortable in it being divine. And I'm having a lot of struggles with accepting the possibility that it is something else, or maybe it's just, me vibrating. But I am also learning and understanding that I am vibrating differently, and I am tapping into things that I haven't been able to tap into before, and the existence is real. But I'm still not there to accept, still have this fear where it could be damaging, because go ahead.
What does divine mean to you?
I don't know. Yeah, what does divine mean to me? It could be, I don't know.
Because you said that you have a fear of accepting that it's divine.
That's exactly what I said. So divine to me I mean like angelic. I mean godly. I mean the creator.
Okay.
The grand architect of the universe, divine. I have a Catholic background, so
right.
Right. So that's where that's coming from.
Yeah.
Catholic, Christian, or same stuff.
So you were talking about conspiracy theories. So I'm going to put something out there.
All right.
The Bible is a channeled book. Right?
By many people that have channeled energy, channeled messages, and they put them together.
Channeling is a skill that when you channel, it is super important to step out of the way, or the ego jumps in. Ego being our brain.
Yeah, my ego's still fighting pretty hard. But I do this for a living, and I got to be careful not to, be the one that flies over the cuckoo's nest. But at the same time, I understand, and I'm almost envy the experiencers that are so comfortable. And it's so beautiful to see that they know and they accept it, because they're doing positive, they're doing good work. And if that's what they believe and that's what they know, and they're doing good things to help other people, I'm stuck in this, I'm just not there yet. I don't know.
So I would invite you to look at things in a different perspective. Okay. Instead of saying divine, what about the all, the collective, the energy, source?
Source.
Right?
Yeah.
People use those different terms.
I feel comfortable with source. Yeah.
And that is what it is. Even if we talk about God, in all religions, there's a lot of similarity, right, between all religions. They're all based in love, originally. They're all about a set of paradigm beliefs and behaviors that are to be seen as positive for the populace. And they all believe in a creator being, or something greater than themselves. Something greater than themselves, even if we just put it at that. So we are all part of a collective. We are all tapped into that collective. When something happens here on Earth, we all feel it, whether we're aware of it or not. So those of us that are a little more sensitive might feel it in a bigger way, but we all feel it. So do you remember when it was about a year and a bit ago, Facebook and Instagram all went down for a bunch of hours?
Oh yeah, a lot of people lost it.
Well, okay, so here's the story. I just finished a meeting. I got off the meeting and I was just puttering around the house, getting ready for a client that was coming. Was not on the internet or anything. All of a sudden, I start having a panic attack.
Okay.
Not something that happens to me often. Not anymore. And I'm like, what is this? What is going on here? And I realize, I take a step back and I'm like, okay, this is not mine, but what is it? And I had to call a friend. I used my millionaire clue and said, call a friend. So I call a friend and I'm like, okay, what is going on? He's like, okay, breathe. I'm like, all right. So Even those of us that are like in healing, when you're in fight or flight mode, you don't think clearly, right? That part of our brain shuts off. So it doesn't matter whether you're intuitive or not or anything. Like, you're human, you're still going to have that physiological response. So I call my friend, he's like, breathe. So once I started to breathe, I was like, okay, yes, this is not mine. And I was able to like get back to my center. I didn't find out until a half an hour later that Facebook and Instagram went down at the exact time that I had a panic attack.
So you were just feeling everyone just losing it. Yeah.
Because the way I see it, we're all kind of, if you picture like this huge net of energy that goes all the way around the earth, and we all have energetic strands, sort of thing, that connect us to that. So if we're sending out a signal of panic up to that collective, then people are going to feel it. So if you get a whole surge of people that all feel that, it's like a wave that goes through that whole collective. So when you have sensitive people, that energy is felt, just as it is with something like a blackhead, for instance, right? There's that panic that goes through.
So this is beautifully timed, because we're going to do our commercial break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about AEDC, so the diplomacy, how it's important that we work together and we do more of what we're talking about. So we'll pause right here, but we will continue after a message from our sponsors. If you're listening to this audio only version, head over to youtube.com/the Experiencer Support Association to see the video that goes with the audio. Remember that you are listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, a podcast by the Experiencer Support Association, and we'll be right back.
It's your business. It's your property. Your assets are worth protecting. Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services specializes in patrolling and inspecting residential or commercial property against fire, theft, vandalism, terrorism, and illegal activity. People and buildings are monitored to prevent crime. Keep your property, your people, and your assets safe from threat. Our elite staff are dual licensed private investigators and security guards. Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services. Go to blacklightiss.com.
The same thing that draws aliens to our planet is the same thing that draws us to others. Exploration, curiosity, sustainability of life. That's why we go. It would make sense as to why they're visiting here.
Travis! Quit playing around, man. Get back here. Travis!
The last thing I remember was this numbing shock. Stunning sort of a feeling. Very powerful.
Get away from me!
I was just out of my mind with fear, just screaming the whole time.
It's been theorized that aliens prefer remote areas because they don't want to attract attention. Whatever it is that they're doing, they would want to do that in a less populated area. There are multiple accounts of the same thing from people from all over the world. People that do not know each other, do not live in the same cultures, and they're all looking up, they're all seeing things in the sky. So it would be naive of us to think that we're
Ryan is one of Canada's leading new UFO investigators. He conducts and oversees UFO investigations on a constant basis and was really taken by his research. He's compiled a tremendous amount of data regarding UFOs in Canada. And just as interesting, he really goes over how UFO investigations are done and what are some of the mistakes that people make when they submit evidence. Note for starters, don't edit your videos or photos before you send them. If you want to hear more follow-up conversation between Ryan and myself, you can go to richardolanmembers.com, where we have a candid conversation on ufology, the paranormal, and more. And remember, while we learn and grow and search for the truth, let's be good to each other.
Welcome to the Observation Deck, a state-of-the-art, one-of-a-kind virtual platform that takes video conferencing to the next level by using avatars to navigate a campus, just like you would in real life. First, you install the application and design your very own unique avatar. Then you're free to explore the various areas of the campus at any time from anywhere. There's so many areas and activities to choose from on the platform. There's a 1,000-seat auditorium, a large expo hall, a movie theater, a nightclub, an art gallery, and even a beach. Come attend a conference or take a class or hear a lecture. Meet new friends and interact directly with presenters. It's all right here on the incredible Observation Deck campus. Where in the world will you go?
Have you ever wondered, or maybe just thought to yourself, if there were others just like you? You know, people with extraordinary abilities, psychogenic advancement, and perhaps unique intuitions. Maybe you just wondered if there were other people who experienced unimaginable, unexplained, or even unusual and paranormal events. Are there people who have more questions, more fears than answers? Well, you're not alone. You've never been alone. We believe you. Sign up for EA today by going to tesacan.org/EA. That's TESACAN.org/EA.
All right, welcome back. We're just chatting in the chat, laughing at each other here. Welcome back. You're listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. Did you know that we have a private community chat for members on our YouTube channel? If you become a member, you will get bonus content like exclusive videos, including bloopers, behind the scenes, and members-only Q&A. Also, if you ever experienced an unexplained event involving the paranormal, UFOs, extraterrestrials, dogman, or any other paracryptid, head over to tesacan.org/reporting system. But the others who have already reported, be that example that proves we are making a difference. And if it wasn't for these reports, we could not do what we do. For that, we thank you. So the giggles are simply me in the chat saying I totally got called out on that, and I was laughing about that. And then you participated and said, sorry, you shouldn't apologize for that. I was just saying, like, whoa. But the thing is before we get into the next question, the AEDC, I thought, what is really my problem? And I'm just like, it's a trust. I think it's a trust thing. So to go with, like, why am I the way that I am, is we take in the possibility of there being higher vibrational beings and being lower vibrational beings. I'm channeling or I'm receiving this message without knowing the intent of source.
Yes.
How can I trust that what I'm doing is going to be good for the collective? I think that is the reason why I have fear. Because I can't trust it, and I haven't gotten a direct line to say, I'm the boss, this is what's going on, you've been selected for this reason, because it's still possible that I might be intercepting someone else's thoughts or some other mission, and I'm just like, stealing someone else's idea. Like we don't know. So how do you trust that?
So that's where discernment comes in.
It's also a Gemini thing. Dave, you're fired. Get out of here, Dave. Okay.
So it is a trust thing, but for me, I didn't trust it either. The more experience you have with it, how do you create trust with a person? By talking to them, by experiencing their beingness, their experiencing spending time with them. That's how you develop trust. And for me, I can feel the difference. That's how I know the difference. When I'm around the demonic stuff, when I do that work, I feel sick to my stomach and I get dizzy.
And that I can agree with. If I feel good about it, I will do it. And if it doesn't feel right, I won't do it. And that's how I do trust that it's going to lead to something good, because I feel good doing it. And that's why we try to change that negative thought. And as well through Tessa is to want them to think more positively about the possibility. So you are, without even getting into the whole reason why you're here, I'm just going to tell you before we get to the end that you're an asset to be a resource for experiencers in the future. So I'm very happy to meet you. And I'm telling you the truth that this is off the cuff. I didn't know anything until we started today. Serena says, great show. So much of this resonates. Tessa brings the best guest. Thank you, Tanys. Looking forward to the rest of the discussion. And I'll throw that back to Cece. Cece's the one that lines all these guests up. And she's been doing an amazing job. She's got everything booked until I think August, she says, or July. So I don't have to worry about that. So shout out to Cece. Thank you so much for making this happen. So
thank you, Serena. That's a lovely compliment. I appreciate that.
Tell us about your work as a galactic ambassador with the Alliance for Extraterrestrial Diplomatic Contact, AEDC.
So that's quite a story, actually. It starts way before my involvement started.
Okay.
Would you like me to start at the beginning?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So, because I was a galactic ambassador in the other dimensions before I was a galactic ambassador here in 3D.
Transferable skills.
It is. Okay. So if we go back a few years, when I started getting in touch with my guides and stuff, I realized that I had two guides that were Pleiadian, Meek and Oni. I also started working with an Arcturian guide, who his name is Ragus. I had met various other ones, Commander Ashtar, but very briefly, and Commander. Oh my goodness. Anyway, it was a Pleiadian commander. And over the course of time, they were helping me with my healing work. They were helping me with my spiritual journey. Then I had a personal experience. So I had actually, so we're going to get a little bit personal, but I had.
It's your turn.
So when my son was young, he had left something on the stairs outside, and you know those planters that you can build out of like railroad ties, right? So we had one at the front of our house, and he had left this bug collector thing, which was clear, so I didn't see it. I tripped on it, and I fell right on the corner of this planter.
Oh wow!
And it landed right on my breast, right here. Hurt like a bugger, but anyway, bruised, but went away. Didn't think anything of it. So a few years later, I start having pain there. And I remember that I fell on it. I thought, okay, I got to go to the doctor and get it checked. So I go to the doctor. By this time, I'm in my spiritual path and, doing my own healing work as well. And it would like hurt. It would like pulse pain kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So the doctor, of course, sent me for a mammogram. Before I get to the mammogram, of course, I ask for help with health things because I'm in the habit of doing that, and we have to ask, right, to receive. Mm-hmm. So I had asked for help. One night in the middle of the night, I woke up with feeling like I had a vacuum right here. And it was, that's startling, right? If you think of a vacuum sensation, like right pulling at your body. So I woke up and my alien guide was standing beside me, Ragus. I didn't know his name was Ragus at the time. I woke up and I was like shocked to see this. And I was like, and then he was gone. So it was only a moment, but I stopped having pain after that night. Nothing showed up on the mammogram. And I have had no problem since.
Interesting.
Turns out he's Arcturian.
Okay. And
he now helps me with my etheric surgery.
Okay.
So when I do etheric surgery on people, right, we're doing in the various levels. Etheric surgery is done, the etheric level of the energy field, but it's not the 3D, right? So I'm not doing 3D surgery, just to make that clear. I'm not a surgeon. It's energy. It's all energy. I'm basically removing pockets of energy that are deeply embedded in the etheric field when I'm doing that. And so Ragus helps with that because that's what he does. So that was my sort of first experience in terms of seeing. So I was kind of aware of the other guides, but I hadn't really seen them. And then after that experience, I started seeing more and more of them. Now, when I'm talking about seeing, I'm not talking necessarily like, like I see this phone, right? I'm talking like there's internal clairvoyance and there's external clairvoyance. Okay. So when it's external clairvoyance, I'm seeing it like over there. When it's internal clairvoyance, it's like in my head, but it's a picture in my head that comes out of nowhere. Okay. So another part of my previous story was that I had always had clairvoyance, internal clairvoyance. Thought it was in my imagination. So many people have internal clairvoyance and they think it's their imagination.
Well, yeah. So I guess for those who've been following my journey, internal clairvoyance might be a good way to describe some of the things that I'm trying to figure out. I've been calling it a download of information packets because it makes sense, like information, but I'm not getting the bedside manner that you're getting. I'm not seeing names. I'm not having conversations. I'm not like knowing who I'm talking about. It's just like all of a sudden, like, okay, I got to do that so I feel better.
Yeah. Yeah. And so how does that message come in for you? Does it come in like you just know that you have to do that?
There's things.
Okay, so that would be a claircognizance. If you just know, you all of a sudden know something and you're not sure how, you just know.
Yeah, sometimes that happens and I like Google it later and be like, how did I know that? Turns out it's right.
Yeah, that's claircognizance.
So there's some things like that.
If you're struggling with something like you're trying to put a puzzle together, or that's a basic kind of example though. You're trying to put a puzzle together and then all of a sudden you see the piece and then you see it here and you can pick that piece up and put it in. If you see the shape of the piece, that's clairvoyance. That's internal clairvoyance. If you're seeing that in your head. And then you're like, oh, there it is, because you can recognize what you're seeing in your head versus what's sitting on the table.
Yeah. So we have the Tessa has a map that was, I tend to see different things at different times, but the image doesn't change. But then I get different types of ideas that come in. Like it's like the puzzle piece, and then I'm looking at the image in this world too. So that's interesting. We'll talk more about that later. I think we need to have a personal conversation.
I think so.
Offline. Yeah. So transferred into AEDC.
Okay, so I had those encounters. I started having those experiences. So then I was fascinated with a show on Gaia, interviews with Ed, interviews with extra dimensionals. In the meantime, I've realized that I'm a channel and that I start getting channeled messages, two kinds of channeling. There's mediated and full trance. I've been doing both by this time. Okay. So I'm watching the show and there's times when you're watching and you're like playing on your phone or whatever, and you're listening to what's happening and whatnot. This one particular show came on and it was with Adam Apollo. And I was glued to the screen. I didn't know why I was so glued to the screen, but I was glued to the screen. And as I'm watching it, I had to actually leave and partway through and go. I'm an HR consultant as well. So I had to go and do an interview or something. And so I ran back to watch the rest of the show. So I sit down and start watching it again. All of a sudden, the room is filled with my galactic guides. And I'm going, okay, what's going on, dudes? What you doing here? Why are y'all here right now? And they don't tell me. They're just like, are you ready? Are you ready? Without thinking about it, I'm like, yes. And then I'm like, why am I saying yes? What am I saying yes to? They all start celebrating and they're sending like a ton of love. So when you feel that overwhelming love, it's high vibration. Energetically, when you get a whole surge of love like that, when we cry because we're so full of love for something, it's that feeling. But it wasn't coming from inside. It was like all of this love coming at me. And so when we get that, we put a whole bunch of high vibration. The low vibration emotions and stuff, they don't have anywhere to go but out. So we clear them. And so I'm sitting there crying, because that's how I clear. I'm sitting there crying in the basement by myself, watching Adam Apollo in the physical. In the other dimension, I'm like, all of my guides are like jumping up and down and excited, sending me all this love, and I'm crying because I'm releasing. So then they disappear, and I'm like, wait, what did I just agree to?
Right.
Wait, come back.
Yeah.
So I tune in later, and I'm told that I'm a galactic ambassador. I'm like, okay, sure. I don't know what that means, but all right, whatever. I'm told it's a soul contract. Fine. So a little bit after that, I end up I get downloaded a healing modality called Nukti. It's a Pleiadian healing modality, and it actually basically changes the frequency of the cytoplasm within the cell, because when we have trauma and grief, we hold a certain frequency within the cytoplasm of our cells, right? And so what this particular energy does is it reprograms that cytoplasm to hold a different frequency. So it releases grief and trauma at a cellular level. And so when this came through, I just woke up one morning and was like, oh, my crown chakra is really tender. But I get downloads, like you said, right? You get downloads of information. So I thought, oh, well, I guess I must have had a download overnight. I go to do Reiki on my client, who happened to be a friend of mine, thankfully. And I start doing the Reiki session, and my hands feel really different than they normally did. Okay. Instead of feeling hot, like they do with Reiki, they were almost kinetic feeling. I would say tingly, but it wasn't painful in any way. It was just like kinetic. Okay. So I do the session, and I'm thinking, like, am I broken? Like, what is going on here? And she gets up from her session. She's like, whoa, that was intense. I'm like, are you okay? I might be broken. She's like, no, it was great. It was intense. It was awesome. I'm like, okay, good. I'm like, I don't know what it is. But So then I go to see a friend of mine in 2 or 3 days after that. And he's an angel communicator. And we were doing a soul retrieval share. And just before I leave, I get this feeling in my hands again. I'm like, Brian, what is this? He's like, whoa. I'm like, I don't know. I might be broken. He's like, you're not broken. And he taps in, and he's told that it's a new energy that I'm bringing to the earth. I'm like, what am I supposed to do with that? He's like, you need to go and write. I haven't done any automatic writing at this point. I'm like, I don't know what that is. So he hands me a paper and pen, and he's like, you're in the channeling space. Just go and do it. And I'm like, all right. So I go down to my car. It's a nice day. I open the windows. I sit down, pull out the pen. I'm like, all right, what do I need to know? Next thing I know, I have 5 pages written about this healing modality called Nukti. And it was basically that it's a Pleiadian healing modality. And when I asked for a human name, because Nukti is a Pleiadian name, I was given grief relief as the human name.
Do they speak to you in English, or you just understand? You just understand when they communicate.
I understand it in English. I have a feeling it's like a telepathic communication. So I think it goes through translation, shall I say? So I don't know whether they speak it in their language and somehow it translates in my head to English. But it's like a telepathic communication that it comes in as. Anyway, so I started using it, and I would just call it in like I do my Reiki. And then about 1.5 years after, they started bugging me to teach it. This is part of the whole story, by the way. So they start bugging me to teach it. So I'm like, yeah, when you give me a manual, I'm busy with the 3D stuff. Come on. And they're like, no, do it. No. So they sent 4 of my psychic friends after me, who all said out of the blue, I really want to learn that Nukti. Okay, fine, thanks. So I sit down, I write a manual for the Nukti, and I end up teaching this Nukti. So I've got four students and myself. There's 5 of us. And of course, one of them is a really good friend of mine, and we get through the manual part, we get to break. Break time, she says to me, they've been showing me this mudra. I'm like, okay. So a mudra is when you hold your fingers in a specific position to call upon a certain energy frequency or a certain quality of energy. right? With yoga and stuff like that.
I've tried some of those things to like fall asleep. There's sometimes like there's this one thing where I kind of it works. It's weird.
It is. It does work.
Yeah.
So she shows me this mudra. She said, "How do you?" There's a question here. How do you spell that? Mudra or Nukti?
Nukti, I think he's asking. Yeah.
Nukti, Nokti is what they gave me.
Okay.
Yeah, Nokti. So, yeah, where was I? Sorry.
No, it's okay.
I get distracted easily because I've got this going on as well as the questions.
It's okay. You're paying attention to the questions. I usually don't look at them till the end. So good for you for paying attention to the guests.
Sorry, I do my own podcast too, so I'm used to doing that.
It's all good.
Okay, so we get to that, and she shows me this mudra, and she said they'd been showing it to her from the beginning, told her not to show me until now. And so we sit down, and I'm like, okay, and the other students have gone off on a break. I do the mudra. I close my eyes just to feel into it. Next thing I know, my body's still in front of the computer, right? Because I'm teaching it online. My consciousness is standing in front of Commander Ashtar of the Galactic Federation. And I'm like, hi, what am I doing here? And he goes like this. And I like automatically go down on one knee. And he has this staff made out of metal that I'm not familiar with. And he does like a knighting ceremony. And then he like helps me up. And he puts his hand on my chest. And he says, "You are now one of us." Wow. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what that means. And again, I'm feeling a whole bunch of love coming at me. But it felt
good. You accepted it, not knowing, but it felt good. So you trusted it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Because I had that overwhelming love feel again. The same feeling I had felt before. And I could tell there was a whole room of people here, and there were a couple of other people beside him. As soon as he did this, said, "You are now one of us," all of a sudden I'm back sitting in my consciousness is now back in my body, and I'm sitting in front of my computer, and I'm bawling. I'm going, okay, just give me a second. I just got to put myself together. And I didn't even know how I was going to do the attunement. So the attunement is how you open up the channels in order to be able to hold the capacity or to run the channel of light of what you're doing. So we do attunements in Reiki. So I assumed it was an attunement, but I didn't know exactly what to do. As soon as I came back, I knew exactly what I needed to do the attunement. So the thing that happened next, I guess, would have been I find out that I'm a galactic ambassador and a galactic teacher. So you question that a little bit, right? You're like, that was a weird experience. I'm still, a little bit. So I meet this woman online that I had been talking to. We now do a show on Wednesday nights live on Facebook called Live, Learn, and Love. Okay. Love and learn. Live, love, and learn. And so we're talking, and all of a sudden I'm telling her what I look like in the other dimensions, because we look different depending on what floor we're on, right? In that building, we can look different depending on what we're doing. So I'm telling her, oh yeah, usually my higher self, I look, wear this green dress and everything, and I have red hair, more red hair than I do here. And she's like, I've seen you. I'm like, oh. She said, yeah, you were like in this knighting ceremony thing. There was this guy, and she described Commander Ashtar, and then she described the guy that was standing beside him. I'm like, what? And so I tell her about this experience during Nukti. She says, yeah, I was there.
That's interesting. There's validation. Yeah.
I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. So fast forward a bit. I start talking to this friend of mine. We were doing a catch up, post-COVID kind of thing. And he's not one that's usually, it's not usually in his framework. We don't talk a lot of spiritual stuff. But for some reason, I find myself telling him about my galactic stuff. And I don't know why. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, why am I doing this? This is going to freak him out. because I usually try and meet people kind of where they are, right, in conversation. And all of a sudden he says to me, I have a friend who's doing this convention in October. I feel like I should introduce you. I'm like, sure. I'm always open for meeting new people. Why not? So I fast forward a bit. I end up meeting Sylvain, who starts telling me about the Alliance. The Alliance for Extraterrestrial Diplomatic Contact. I'm like, cool. And I start telling him the story, and I'm thinking, okay, he's going to think I'm like, he's very science-based. And I start telling him the story, and I'm thinking, okay, well, this is who I am, so I'm just going to own it and step into it. So I tell him this whole story that I've just told you, and that I've been told I'm a galactic ambassador. He says, when did this start for you? I said, about 4 years ago. He said, yeah, there seems to be something coming up, because you're not the only person that said to me that they were knighted a galactic ambassador. I'm like, really? Because I'm like, at this point, I'm still like, well, maybe it's still my imagination, right? Maybe it's whatever. Because I still try to look at stuff in that way. I think that is what makes you a good intuitive, is if you're still looking for the plausible explanation in things, right? Much like what you do, right? Anyways, so he tells me there's more. I'm like, okay. So I tell him he needs to meet Adam Apollo. He said, I have a meeting with him next week. I said, okay, good.
Wow.
And I go all fangirly on him and like, can you just tell him he made a big difference for me? Because I was watching his show, and he's like, well, if you're going to be involved, you'll probably meet him and get to know him. I'm like, oh.
Nice.
Oh, you want me involved? It's like, well, yeah. So I go to a meeting, and we end up that we are all galactic ambassadors. The title becomes a thing.
So so the Alliance wasn't a title then? Like, so
the Alliance was already
it was already made, okay.
Yeah. They already had their own stuff. They didn't have the title of galactic ambassador per se.
Okay.
But really, we are all galactic ambassadors. And those of us that do have interactions, we are galactic ambassadors. And what are galactic ambassadors? We're here to help connect.
For what reason, though? Why do the work?
Do you question why you need to take care of yourself? Do you question why?
It's kind of. Oh, don't throw it back on me. I was trying to get into the embassy. I was just like, come on, you guys are building a land.
So why do the work?
Why are you guys doing that galactic work as the Alliance?
As the Alliance, okay. So as the Alliance, we are doing it because we want to make sure that when the ETs do come down, that we're not shooting them down. So the Alliance is working on, they're having meetings with the UN to create some changes in some of the conventions to allow for significant diplomatic action. They're building an embassy to have a space for them when they do come down. And in order for us to have them come down, we have to be able to hold love and peace here on Earth. Because otherwise, if you were an outsider coming to Earth, it would be kind of scary. So really, my work with the Alliance is about making sure that we spread love and light to the Earth, which is what I've already been doing.
Which is how Sylvain found me, naturally organic, just looking. He's like a Men in Black. He's a little spy, that guy, just trying to. He's like, these are all the people, right? So, and okay.
And Dave says we're building a new world. Yeah,
we are.
We are. We're evolving as a species, and that's what we're meant to do.
And we're all helping each other get there. And it's a feeling with Tessa. So Tessa's the Experiencer Support Association, the same idea of like-minded individuals putting together the same, the same direction of involving the movement to be more positive, right? So when we get people that have, like myself, that may be experiencing things that don't understand it, I connect them with people like you who understand that. I just need to know enough about it to be able to categorize them to a point and know someone who can help them develop it. And at the same time, make sure it's weeded out enough that it's serious, that it's not wasting your time, as because you're with your schooling and all these other things that you have to. They're supposed to write like a matchmaker, and by doing that, matching it in these directions, and at the same time fighting off all of these Cowans and UFO Twitter haters and all this other stuff, keeping them at bay but protecting them. So it naturally made sense that I would connect with AEDC, now not an official member, but like supporting and working in unison with the mission. I support the movement because of the idea it brings. The concept of having a like if all things are real and they're able to connect to us, and they have every right to fear us as a human race, because majority of us are aggressive. And we can choose to fight the disclosure narrative, to push and get answers, but perhaps we're pushing the wrong people because they don't have the answers. We just need to meditate and then we'll be fine. As I learned through you, and as obviously I have some trauma with the disclosure movement that you were able to flush me out with tonight, and I'm owning up to that. But it's that positive growth in that direction to change these people to do more of what they do, and if they are going to make themselves in the physical and home, make the self a home for them, they're going to want to be welcomed by all. So whether it's real or not real, it doesn't matter. Something is happening. And if you are an advocate out there that wants to do something, you have a choice to put energy into a positive movement that is more than likely going to give a more positive result than fighting against the government, which is the hand that feeds us, for answers. The answers will come, but you put in your energy into something more positive and you'll feel good about it. So I do support AEDC a lot with it, and I'm happy that you're part of it. Happy to meet you. Happy that this is going good. Sylvain, if you're watching this, I want in, man. I want to do this. I want to help with the politics and things like that too, because I know things. But you're also doing a podcast. So we had Calypso on here a few weeks back.
Yeah.
Right. And she's a co-host. Did you see her episode?
I haven't had a chance. I was going to watch it.
Okay.
I had a meeting with her last week, and I was just going to sit down and watch it.
No
over
worries.
the weekend.
It's okay. So at the end, we talked. At the end, jeez. At the end, we talked about the podcast and how she felt about it and how she was going to contribute to it. So I'm interested in you telling me your take on the podcast, how that's going to work together, what you're doing as an individual, and then how that's, how that AEDC part is now going to be part of the Tessa family in terms of content. So tell me about the podcast.
Yeah, so it's Bridge to the Cosmos, and we'll be having guests on from all sorts of areas of expertise. We'll be asking them questions about ET experiences, about what their role is in the alliance, depending on who the guest is, right? Of course, we're going to tailor it to whichever the guest is and where that's coming from. But we also are going to probably find out some personal stuff about these people too. Let's get to know people. Let's realize that we are all humans and we are all bringing our areas of expertise to the table with all of these things. And so, those are the kinds of things that we're going to be looking at and asking questions about what those people believe and where are they getting that information from, and delving into the science and the politics behind all of this a little bit more, and bringing that to the forefront.
And you'll be talking about AEDC and the movement and how people can be involved with that and contribute. So you guys do you have a petition going, or I'm not sure. You need signatures or something, do you not?
We need people that want to help and contribute their names to a list, because the more, of course, when you have political clout, to get political clout, you have to have numbers. of people that support you. And so we look for people that are willing to like put their name on that list for support, because then we can take it to the higher ups and say, look, we've got all these people.
So where can people find that list?
On our website. I don't think the whole list is on the website, but that's where they can contact us to get on the list. I don't think we have a public list. I think it's a private one at this point.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
We'll have to talk to Sylvain about it too, because what we're going to try and do is generate more tension on the idea, so that way we can help generate more names for this list, and work in tandem and together to get some pressure, at least on that side. My understanding is the funds are already raised, you're ready to break ground, you're ready to do all these things. You just need permission. You just need to go. So if we have to leverage it, and that's the beautiful thing, it's free to sign this petition. It's free. It's a positive movement. It's like fighting disclosure. It's just not aggressive. It's just pushing the government, all governments, but to create a beautiful place, to receive contact. We want the aliens to come. Why not, create a nice place for them to come over? Now, that's if the beings, that's a specific type of beings that you're expecting to have, right? Because you are part of a galactic ambassador and federation, if you will, and been communicating with a specific type of beings. Is there anything combating that might prevent this from happening?
Oh, I would say there's always going to be combating, right? There's government involvement. Pardon me.
It's okay.
I have a tickle. There's always going to be government involvement. That you're not always going to have everybody on board, right? With anything. That's anything, not just like
now with
terrestrial stuff or paranormal stuff.
You being Canadian, this might not be too woo for you, but with the U.S. Congress having having a hearing recently to make it not taboo, if you will, do you think that's a step towards that's beneficial for AEDC or something? Is that helpful? Things like that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it shows that they're actually talking about it. So going back to our first question, what do we need to talk about more?
Is that. And could we use that as leverage or as examples to get more signatures? Because if they're talking about it and we're doing this, I don't know. I haven't met majority of the people I met for ADC is Canadian, but I mean, I'm assuming
we have them all over the world.
They're all over the world, right? Yeah.
In Geneva, a few different places, Australia.
And it's very important to get those nations together because we have different perspectives, we have different rules, we have different governs, laws and societies that we have to work together. And if we can work together in a universal way, where it's almost as if these laws and these borders don't exist anymore the way it used to be, because there was a reason for why these walls went up. There was never walls in the first place. Somehow we got to remember who we were to know who we are, so we can become. So I feel like there's a lot of audiences need to talk about it. The United States is just finally having a conversation about their own, dirty laundry from back in the 50s, finally catching up. Canada, I don't know how much you know about Canadian disclosure, but we've declassified documents since 1995, transferred them all to the States, of course, to continue investigations and things like that too, but we're more open about it. So our governments are different in terms of releasing the information, talking about it. Don't know. We have coins that are minted. We have a landing pad in Alberta. Like, there's a significant difference in how we acknowledge the existence of extraterrestrials here in Canada. China talks about ghosts as if they're family members. Like they have different cultures. Well, I mean, like, they welcome them in their home. It's part of their everyday life. It's like, it's not weird to them. So what I'm saying is, with the Alliance it's not just one person, it's global. You're working on the political movement with other nations. So you're creating a United Nations in extraterrestrial land, if you will, which should be easy to approach the real United Nations, because it's following a very systematic way in which they could adapt.
Yes.
So the probability of that being unsuccessful to me is low risk, which is why I'm investing in that and endorsing the shit out of it right now. And I'm just explaining it, is that the probabilities of that being successful is higher than the current way that we're doing that. So thank you for being a part of that, and I hope it works out. Like, I hope it happens.
Thank you.
All right, so
we just need to all make decisions out of love
Can't go wrong.
out of fear. If you make
All we
decisions
need-
out of love,
just need a little more love. That's all we need.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have another segment that I normally do. It's going to kind of shift gears a little bit, but before I do that segment, tell everybody where they can find you, in case they want to take your services or anything like that, or follow you wherever you want to go. We do have links in the description in YouTube, and we also have it on the banner here. But where can they find you more directly?
So Twillow Lifestyle Community is where I am. So you'll find me at Twillow Lifestyle on Facebook and Instagram and all those fun places. You can find me on the website, twillowlifestyle.ca. We have also a school, Twillow Lifestyle Academy, where we've got a specially curated group of teachers teaching everything from energy healing modalities to metaphysics to like yoga to spiritual finances, like all of that sort of gamut of stuff. These are experts that I've pulled in from all over the world. So they're teaching for the Twillow Lifestyle Academy. And we actually are gearing up for a big live on June 12th. There's going to be 8 experts for 5 hours live, free. Come and see us, because we're going to be open to answering questions and talking about some of those topics that everyone struggles with, right? Careers and money and romance and physical and emotional well-being. So Twillow Lifestyle Community is more of the healing company. So that's where you'll find things like the services and stuff that we do. I have 2 other practitioners that work with me. And the Twillow Lifestyle Academy, you'll find it from the Twillow Lifestyle page.
Perfect. Awesome.
So reach out. I'd love to hear from you.
Fun fact, as I teach people how to investigate the phenomenon.
Awesome.
So I'm busy that weekend, but in the future, maybe I can help you with that.
We need to talk.
Yeah, for sure.
We need to talk.
All right, so let's do our last segment, which is called Sorry, Not Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, it's our Canadian, little Canadian jingle here. One second. All right, so on the topic of unity and bringing everybody together and knowing that there are controversies between beliefs and some people fight against each other about having a different opinion, but yet we're all fighting for the same answers. Okay, my question for you is, what shape is the Earth?
What shape is the Earth?
That's it.
Okay.
Should know this. You should know what shape the Earth is.
It feels like a trick question. It's all energy. That's one thing I'm going to say.
Okay.
So I would say that, there's slight shifts. Overall, we're looking at round.
Okay. There's no right or wrong answer. The whole purpose of it, again, social experiment, is just trying to get a variance on. I ask this on every show to get a variance of different answers. To kind of suggest that this is one thing that we all should agree upon.
Yes.
And not everyone's going to have the same answer.
Yes.
And there's science that says that this is the way it should be, but there's a lot of things that don't make sense to that. So there's a lot of trust that isn't happening. And there's a lot of fighting, in the flat earth movement. They get a lot of attacks, and they get like attacked hard. And not that I'm supporting one movement or the other, because I can't prove I'm not an astronaut, but to piggyback onto the whole negative side of things, that these are individuals that carry a belief, and they are working just as hard as us to get answers too, but they just believe it to be different. And we can't prove them wrong, and they can't prove us right. And the concept and the idea of the earth being different than what we're told creates fear, because that means everything we know is wrong.
Right.
Which does not make sense when we're trying to prove that aliens exist, which means, that all these other things don't exist. No religion, no this, no that. So it's a contradictory to a lot of us. So to match perfectly with this episode, the take home is, as you said, a little bit more love, help each other, understand each other, find ways we can work together, and then we can grow together.
And your reality is your perception.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And so that sums up the flat earth versus the round as well.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Flat or round, doesn't matter. We're stuck here. We have to talk to each other. Let's get along, exactly. And, things like that. It makes no difference because we're stuck here. And we don't have the money to do that. Unless you're Elon Musk. Elon Musk has made several attempts trying to get there. And if you watch his failed attempts, it looks like he's hitting something. It does. But I've been, my wife, who follows a lot of his stuff too, recently told me he made a deal with NASA. So if he made a deal with NASA, maybe he knows the truth now and he's covering it up. We don't know. Who knows?
I know. People say things. It's their perception.
And I think CC has Starlink. So you're supporting the Musk too. Musk is Canadian as well, born in Kingston, from Kingston, I think, Southampton. So there's all these things.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, that's it. That's the wrap. That's the end of the show. So we're going to do our after chat. If you want to stick around for the after chat, just participate in the comments. I know you can do that. We're going to talk about the show, talk about what's coming up next for Tessa, our next episode, and all those other things too. CC, are you going to join me? Thumbs up. Yep, perfect. Okay, so thank you everyone for tuning in. Stick around for the after chat, and we'll see you soon. All right.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here. Keep your eyes in the sky, everybody, and heed the world.
That's it, everybody. That is a wrap. That is the end of it all. Thank you for joining me tonight. I look forward to seeing you back next week, where we'll continue to have this conversation deep down into the rabbit hole in which we call the Ultra Spectrum. Thanks for joining us. I said that already. Oh well, fuck it. Heed the world.
This side now. Hello.
Hello.
How you doing?
Not too bad.
That was a riot. That was good.
It was. I really enjoyed you getting called out a little bit there.
Someone's bound to do it. But, it was going to happen. That's good. No, she's very knowledgeable, of course. And that proved in that moment, and I respect her for that because it showed the knowledge. A lot of people can talk about it, but to be able to, turn it around like that, that's skill, and I respect that. That's good. And I hate it. I have to. I can't. It's live. I'm not going to go back and delete this. Like, come on. I'm not like everyone on UFO Twitter, but that's it. We're out there, right? So, all right, let's take a shout out to all our people here. I saw Karen. I noticed that you're a member now, so thank you so much. I didn't see that before, so awesome. Thank you for being a new member to our channel. Awesome. Appreciate the support. I'm glad you're really loving Tessa. I don't need to say hi to Cece. She's already here. And then, just joking. Lisa. Hey, Lisa. How you doing?
Hey, Lisa.
Dave Pacella. Yeah, you're here. Hello, Dave. Serena. I think I saw you. Yep. Hi, Serena. What else we got in the chat here? GP. Oh, yeah. Space Cadet. You're here again. Right on. Awesome. Really digging it. Good to see you. Welcome back. Let me see. Anything else? I'm just going to scroll through. Aurora Sheehan. Hello. Good to see you. Welcome. And let me see. CC, Space Cadet. I think that's it. I think I got them all.
No, we had a few late joiners. We got Thomas Corvidia and
hello, Thomas. Good to see you, Corvidia. Hello.
Yeah.
416 Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Are you back to try to sell me some crypto? What else we got? Leanne and Corey. Hello. You guys made it. A little late, but at least you're there. Hope you guys are having a lovely evening. Let me see here. And Tanys, of course. Hi, Tanys. Hi. Welcome. Glad you're here. Good, you're here. All right. So the way this after chat works is we're going to talk about our updates for Tessa. If you guys have questions you want to talk about it, put them in the comments now, and we'll go from there. So, do we have any questions at all? Do you have anything starred? Nothing?
I did star one thing. I don't think it was quite a question, but
we'll talk about it. Karen says my guides also call it the Prime Directive.
That's what it was. I started that comment because I thought that was really fascinating. That people are getting similar messages all over the place. Even, if you watch Gaia and you see the channelers, the show that Tanys was referring to, actually, a lot of the messages that people are receiving are very much in line with one another.
Is it because we're all watching the same show?
It's a possibility, but I don't think so.
I went to Star Trek. I went to Star Trek. The Prime. We cannot. We got to follow the Prime Directive. So, and that's where it started for me. Did it adopt from Star Trek and then go into the shows? Now we're just saying it. Is there a Prime Directive? But the concept is genuine, right? Don't mess with, don't interfere, don't meddle. Let us figure it out on our own. That's like,
it's very much in line with witchcraft too, which Tanys brought up, and I was really relieved and happy to hear her explanation of it. You don't mess with someone's free will. It's very similar, I guess, in terms of concept. My perception of Star Trek is they never really did follow the Prime Directive. So,
well, see, okay, so she says TV and movies come from somewhere. So, let's talk a little bit about what I know about that. Like Gene Roddenberry. Before he was a film director and did Star Trek and all that other stuff, he was a journalist and he sat in on some controversial, sat in on some disclosure type things that he wasn't supposed to know. And then years later, he made Star Trek. Steven Spielberg, same idea. Years later, he made E.T. and the Close Encounters of the Third Kind. All these things happened prior to things. So the concept of movies coming from somewhere. And then even Close Encounters of the Third Kind is versus the Fifth Kind. Am I saying that wrong?
Yeah, it's Fifth Kind, I think.
Fifth Kind, yeah. It's like Third Kind's a different one. There's also the Fourth Kind. Pardon me.
I think there are.
I knew that's why I stopped, because I'm like, no, that's wrong. Why is it wrong? But anyways, in the Fifth Kind, is part of an actual case that was investigated even by Hynek. I think Hynek appeared in that movie as well. That mashed potatoes moment, all that other stuff. But apparently it was an actual event. They just changed the location. They changed the identities, right? So it was a Hollywood movie, but supposed to be real. So how do we take that in consideration when they're allowed to do that, but yet they can't tell the truth, but they allow them to do that when the people know that that's the truth. So it's conditioning.
Yes. Yes, I think there's a lot of conditioning going on right now. And if you look at basically the movies and TV shows that are coming out, they're very heavily sci-fi based right now.
It's been like
And
that forever.
it's been a few years for sure, maybe even the past 4 years, which is interesting because Tanys mentioned that's around the time she became an ambassador and had and found that validation through someone else who had seen her there. That gave me goosebumps. I genuinely was like, I couldn't even imagine that feeling.
Well, the conditioning that they instilled for all of these years, it could help us understand and accept these things that have become reality. So this UFO Congress talking about UFOs may have been received differently back in when Project Blue Book was done, because it wasn't a thing. People were scared. People were panicked. People were asking questions. So they did the Project Blue Book and what was ours? Matchbook.
Paperclip or something?
No, not something else. Matchbook was Paperclip. Project Magnet was ours. At the same time, because they went private because the public wasn't able to handle it, and then they slowly started to drip over the years, and now they're starting to come forward because more people are waking up. So it was kind of like a plan, and we see that. Another example, take the Iron Man movies, Iron Man or Captain America. These are superheroes, okay? But but German testing, to create that super soldier, that's something that has happened. The Iron Man suit is used. There's patents for that, in order to get people, not the one you see in the comic books, but I mean, to make someone, human being, more stronger, like these. So did these movies come first? Well, obviously they didn't, because the comic books came first. I'm totally nerding out here, but
I was just gonna say, I was gonna interrupt you.
But what came first, the chicken or the egg, in that sense, right? And it's allowed to be published, it's allowed to be made, because they just label it. And if they
as
label
fiction,
it
right?
as fiction, does it? But when it's actually true, does that make it okay?
Oh, ethics. Oh, that's fun.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
No,
It just
sorry.
got me off guard. Personally, I think it's kind of a double-edged sword on that one, because it's like you say, we haven't been talking about it because there's been a massive amount of fear surrounding this topic for ages, and I can say personally, I was one of those people that was heavily fear-based when I first awoke to this subject, and how much that can play on us, and how harmful that is. So this trickle disclosure is what I'm calling it, is helpful, but I don't think that it's hitting certain people as real because they haven't had that experience. So they're just viewing it as entertainment. So, and to switch a few elements around or facts and make it into, a Hollywood story, I think that aspect of it is unethical. For instance, what happened with Travis Walton, just to, get the views, essentially, they changed a lot of his story and they twisted it to be something more negative than it actually was, and further amplified that fear. Possibly that was a terrifying film, for instance.
But yeah, if you speak to him in person, and I've spoken to him in person about that too, and he said the movie was nowhere close to being accurate. But it still became a movie. It was still something to be told. There's these are like different things. I have experience, very little experience with being behind the camera on television and stuff like that too. And they change the words that you say and the things like that too to make it work, because it's their opinion and they're getting paid and they want the ratings because they're judging us. They're not. If no one watches it, the effort that goes into it is wasteful, and they need to be paid. They need to make money off it because we're viewing, and they need the ratings. So a tactic that makes sense to me is to create a movie and test or examine the analytics, which we all use in shows to figure out what people like, what people don't like. These comments give us validation on what our guests like. Returning guests gives us validation that these people are continuing to join. So these all make sense for to continue doing what we're doing, but we each have individual motives. We have each individual goals. And if we could somehow unify that where the intent is positive versus negative, I think that's the only way we can really divide it, because there's different methods on how to achieve the goal, but the result is to have a better life or to do better for others.
Right.
Whereas you can do the same and create destructiveness. So you have a variance in the community, but at the same time, there's free will, right? We talk about not being able to take free will, allowing us as artists to be creative and to do our own thing is free will. So to make it, it's like, here's the concept, here's the idea, but add your creative element so that way it's entertaining. But by adding a creative entertainment value to it, it takes the credibility away from it being an actual factual use of information. Right. Yes. Which is kind of, so the only thing that they can use that makes to help them in the long run, if in the master plan, would be our reaction to those types of things.
Yeah. And I have to assume that our reaction has been societally fairly positive, just because the nature of the influx of, sci-fi films. They wouldn't be making them if they weren't popular.
No, but then if they are true stories, let's are there experiencers out there that are watching, say, Aliens, for example? Like I was, sick the other day and I felt like I was going to have the chest burster come out of me. And then, I reference Aliens. That's terrifying. I went because I was in a horrible place. I was thinking terrible things. So I imagined a terrible alien, right? Bursting out of my chest because I wasn't feeling well. But is it negative? And if it is negative and that's true and masked by Hollywood, I can't imagine what the experiencer who's seen something like that knows it's true and is watching that. They're going to have nightmares. Yeah. I'll give you an example. I have issues watching war movies, being in the army. I used to love watching army movies, but then I go do my training. I have experience. I do all that other stuff. I will not watch any movie that has to do with war anymore because it's, I had bad experiences.
Yeah.
Right? You get what I'm saying? So
yes.
That's true stuff. But I ain't watching that anymore. So I'm curious to know if there are any experiencers out there, and even on the replay, if you've ever seen a Hollywood movie that's supposed to be fiction that has terrified you because it's something that has really happened to you, and maybe they made fun of it when it's reality for you. And then make a report to Tessa because we can, we will love you. We believe you.
Yes. And I just want to remind everyone that Tessa is a global agency. We're not just Canadian, founded here in Canada, but we are global. And if you do report to, a different organization, you can always still report to Tessa as well and get a second opinion.
Yeah.
That's just based off a Twitter discussion.
Yeah, you always want to have as many opinions on your experience as possible. We do it different. We do have certain methods and certain ways of doing that. The selling point is that it's a private investigating company that's doing the investigations. So I've done my research. I don't think there's any other companies that are doing the same other than the government, and they're not giving us anything. So this might be the only thing you got. But I also do try to work with MUFON or any other organizations if you let us know. And I'll try to get that information, work with the investigators to have, because they have a different method. They have a different perspective, and we can work together because it's about you, the experiencer. You are experiencing something, you want answers, and there's different levels of needs that you have too. What's important is that you're not keeping it inside, and you're not feeling negative about it, and you're not having nightmares. We got to work through the trauma, but I want to understand why you are traumatized, so that way I can separate what's possible and what's not possible, and then someone like Tanys would be a very good example in which I could refer you to, where she can work on the healing. and Serena as well, my wife as well, who does Reiki. You do Reiki too, do you not?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So like Reiki seems to be a good thing. I don't have any issues with this Reiki healing stuff. It's the hypnotherapist that I really have trouble with, but that's up to me. But I mean, and things like that.
I just did a Reiki session on my boyfriend today, so it was nice. Yeah.
I'm overdue. I need one. So if Priscilla, if you're still listening, I need one.
You're on your own.
Yeah, she's like, Reiki yourself. Okay, well, talking about the reporting system, I tested the new reporting system.
I saw that a bit today, yeah.
So when it looks beautiful, it looks nice, it's a little more organized. It's user friendly. It will be mobile friendly as well, but you can now report all in the same place. You can report your experiencer report. You can report your investigative report if you want to contribute to Project Babel, which is, you've already done your work. You have evidence that you want us to review and add to our database. Or you can report a crime. So if you're a victim of bullying or cyberbullying in the communities, or if you've been, I can't really think of anything else other than, because it can't capture the aliens that are sexually abusing you. We want to put you through treatment to help you with that. But there are people that sell and there's fraudulent behaviors and cyberbullying and mismarketing and buying subs and things like that. There's falsified crimes that do happen in this community. And if you are a witness to any of that, you can report, provide a victim statement as well. Not to be confused with an experiencer testimony. If you are a victim of an abduction or something like that, it's still an experiencer report. We'll treat it the same, but unfortunately, I can't slap cuffs on an extraterrestrial unless I'm able to find it. But we can still help you and work through it, because I believe you. And as hard as I've been with this trust thing, that doesn't mean that I don't believe that you guys believe that these things are happening. I just don't know enough to be able to say you're right or wrong, but I'm looking into it. It's hard because I feel the pain. I see the suffering. I don't have answers. I've talked to people who think they have answers. It's still a perspective, but it's still not concrete evidence. We don't have good enough evidence. We have a lot of people that are working hard, but we have very minimal evidence. Tanys says, one of the best ways to support experiencers is to believe them and hold space with the love. And that's right. We do believe you. That is our motto. We believe you. And I believe you. I just may not believe that what you think has happened is what really happened. But as we communicate and as we talk and as we learn, as we grow, I will learn from you. Mm-hmm. That's why we have a conversation. Less is more, right? There's a lot of other experiencers out there that are returning channels. I won't call you out, but I know you're here. So, and that's examples, so thank you for that. So that's my update. I guess Tessa reporting system is ready and rocking and roll. I got to add new reports in. We got a new feature called Tessa's Most Wanted, which is going to have recreation videos. So I'm going to be working on that next. What are you working on? Anything?
Related to the website?
Yeah.
Whatever you want me to do.
So we're caught up then. We're almost there.
I think so. I really truly do. I'm so excited. I think the launch date's really right around the corner.
We keep saying that, but
I know, but this time we're at the end of the.
Yeah, so we're at the point where I made a couple modifications. I got to make a couple changes and do another review again, but
the final review, hopefully.
It's also me being picky, me forgetting little things, but it's also a very complex idea and vision that came from the top level of the building. So
Angel Radio, as you said.
Yeah, Angel Radio is playing, so I got to make sure it's very specific in the way that they want it, and then we'll go from there. But I'm excited because then we can start putting out all this stuff. We can actually show our work. We can dive. We have Serena's writing articles. I think she's backed up on a few articles, so we can finally publish those. I got a crap load of documents that I need to get out there. you know. So
Yeah, it'll be a lot of uploading documents. Like the website will be launched, and we'll likely have documents
nothing.
going. Yeah,
Yeah, there'll be
going up,
nothing
up,
on
up.
it, but we'll be putting them up on a daily basis so you guys
Yeah.
can see it. It'll be just bam, bam, bam. And then I can bring back uncharted case files and talk about these documents as I bring them up. AEDC's got their podcast coming up. And, of course, Dave Petrella tomorrow night.
Yeah, so tomorrow night, I just have the link in the chat right now. So we have East of Astrology, hosted by Dave Petrella, who's been in the chat and really engaged tonight. He is going to be discussing dimensions, which is a very, very interesting topic as of late, with Karen Holton, who's also in the chat and is now a member of the channel, which is very exciting. Thank you, Karen. And she is the host of Quantum Guides. So if you haven't seen her show, please look her up, Karen Holton, Quantum Guides. And they'll be both discussing dimensions, and hopefully you and I will be able to join in that discussion because it's sure to be interesting.
I'm sure we'll be too, and it's kind of fitting that we got into that dimensional talk tonight, you know, so everyone's engaging it. Everyone, if you enjoyed that, you probably enjoy this because it's the same thing. And I enjoy the lessons because like Dave's style is a lesson, right? But this is also his first time with a guest. You know, now he's really comfortable with Karen because he's been on her show several times, and I've been a guest on once, and I've been invited to go back. When is it? June 1st?
Yes, you're going back June 1st.
Is that what you signed me up for?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. It'll be, I think, aired on the 2nd though.
Okay. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like so Dave, I'm going to be watching how you handle a guest. I mean, you know, but I think you'll do good, and I'm happy to see that your program's evolving.
It's at 8 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. Sorry. Thank you, Tanys, for that.
Yeah. So I'm always working behind the scenes. Cece's working with you. I hear things here and there, and but I mean, from a CEO perspective, I'm happy to see that you've started with this small thing and it's growing, and now you're doing guests. So that's good on you, man. Good for you.
Very good.
Dave and I were having a bit of a conversation today about this New Jerusalem. Which is, I gotta show you this thing. It's freaking weird. He introduced it to me, but I asked him if he would do a show on it. New Jerusalem. Sorry, I have to say it weird so I can spell it right.
I do that too, but I have French to fall back on. I have to be like BLEU. Blue.
So Dave will have to explain it a little bit, but I need Dave to do a show. But essentially, I'm seeing a cube, I'm seeing tesseract, I'm seeing like in the center of the Earth, like in the Arctic Circle, like, you know, Hyperborealis, flat Earth, all these things we've been talking about have something to do with this, and the Garden of Eden, all these other things, right up in our alley with the map. So I'll just kind of leave that as a teaser, and I'm putting it on Dave to whenever he can fit it in the schedule to do an episode on this, because I want to learn more about this, and you introduced that to me today.
Well, I've never heard of it, so I'll hopefully that'll be the next episode or soon. Right. And just so you know, for Beyond the Tinfoil Hat next week for June 2nd, so next Thursday, our guest is going to be Sarah Sonia, and she is a practicing medium and paranormal investigator. I'm quite excited to have her on the show.
She from Ontario?
Yes.
I know who that is. That was the one in the paper.
Yeah.
Ah, cool. Cool. All right, cool. Excited for that. Good job setting all these people up, because like that's awesome.
I said Sarah. I think her name's Sarah Sophia. I'm not sure if I said that wrong. I think I said Sarah Sonia. Oh, Sarah Sophia. Okay. Sorry.
Okay. So for those of you,
8 p.m. Eastern time as well.
Okay, so for those of you who are reoccurring or new to the channel, this is where you can go. Just go to Experience Share Support Association, hit subscribe, and then this is the live video that we are right now. But Dave's show is right here. That's the one up in queue for tomorrow. If you missed the show, you just hit it and go to the playlist here. Uncharted Case Files is where I talk about these declassified documents, but I stopped because I knew the new website was coming, and I didn't want to waste any time when I knew the new stuff was coming. And then you can catch up on all of Dave's episodes here. He's got a new intro and outro. That's the other thing. His program's evolving too. It's good. Month by month, it's getting better and better. And we just got to get him in a way that he can run the show without us, and we can sit back, put our feet up, and then we're laughing. But no, good job. And then we also have a members only video, citizen. So Karen, I don't know if you've seen these since you're a new member, but a couple of these videos are me doing out in the field, doing some experiments and things like that. And then I just recently did a new one that's current, where I'm out in North Bay, and I got detained by military police.
Yeah,
so
that was a good one.
Did you watch the episode yet?
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
I did.
so
I
let's
think
talk
maybe
about
I
it.
commented on it.
Did you? What did you think about it?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty neat. I think you did a good job. It was one of a longer one than your usual Citizens Paranormal Reports, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But you handled that really well.
I handled those cops pretty good. Like, oh fuck. There's so many things that could have gone wrong that day. But they knew they were being recorded, and they said all the right things because they had to do their job. Priscilla didn't leave me. So
they were really kind, actually, but maybe that's the Canadian aspect. They were quite kind, and I was sort of surprised by that, considering where you were. I don't want to give too much away, but where you were and what you were doing.
Mm-hmm. What helped was when they did the check, everything I said was valid. I'm a private investigator, own a company. I'm here. I follow the lead. It's one of your documents that your government leaked. So it's not my fault. Blame the queen, So we got a problem here. Oh, your signs don't say these things too, right? Like, oh, you're not supposed to do that. Well, your sign doesn't say that. So do as they say, not as they do. Anyways, if you haven't seen that, that's available to members right now. And that's our way to give back to members that are contributing to this. That's helped making programs like this free for you. So if you are interested in being a member, hit join. You can $2.99 or $4.99, one of the tiers. We're always interested in doing more for you guys. And you got a comment, so we know that you're watching it, and so that we know what you like, what you don't like. Make requests, so I know what kind of videos to do next. It's totally interactive for you guys. But if you're not a member, don't worry about it. Just be mindful that there are people out there that's helping keeping this free for you guys, and then just spread the love wherever we can. And the new website's going to have, I think, a discussion portal for members as well. The one we keep talking about that we don't really have right now because the website's in limbo. But
yeah, it's going to be great. There's going to be a discussion portal built right into the website, and if you have a membership with our organization, then you got your tickets into it.
Yeah, and we'll figure out how to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
We're looking at other places to drive membership to, but the only thing is with YouTube is we're not able to talk to our members directly. It's unfortunate. When you sign up as a member, as I said, I didn't even know Karen was a member. So I wouldn't have known she was a member unless I looked at the members list a couple months down the road when we're trying to see how we're doing. I don't like that. So you as a member, if you're watching this, interact with the members' videos, interact with the community posts. Let me see if I can show you the community post. If you guys participate in this column and share all this information here, we'll see that, but we can't reach out to you. All we can do is say, hey, thank you for this, and hope you're watching and hope you're listening. And then you get it on the replay. If you're a member and you watch on the replay, say thanks. Let us know you're there. That's the best that we can do. Wish we could do more, but maybe with the new discussion portal, we'll be able to be more interactive with our members.
Yeah, and anyone at any time can email us at admin@tessacan.org, TESACAN.org, and give us any feedback or suggestions, and we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, I can't wait to change that name. That name's being changed with the new website.
Yes, it is, yes.
Yeah. I put a teaser out there. I put a little teaser photo out there recently of what the color scheme looked like. We'll give you guys a hint of what color the website's going to look like. And for some reason, it's the same color scheme as my Uncharted case files. All my favorite colors. Lisa, good question. What did I think about your book? Wow. I did read it. So I have to go, like, I don't want to give anything away because others, I want others to get it. And you can get it on Amazon. It's called Between Two Worlds, right? What I did like is the way that the story, and that wasn't a story. It's not a story. It's an experience testimony in a book, right? It's a book format. So what I was fascinated about was the stuff you didn't tell me. So I was aware of the experiencer cases because I helped you worked on those from the beginning. And then I knew that you have more experiences. And I knew you were writing a book and you were saving that for that and doing all that other stuff, which is you're right. And I really wanted you to make those reports because I wanted to help you to it. But at the same time, at least you got it out, you expressed it, and it was conveyed really good in terms of an easy read for people to understand. So having investigated parts of that for you, I really had an understanding of how serious these events are for you. As for the second half, in terms of cases in which I didn't investigate yet, like I'm still on the fence as to what that might be. I like to get my hands in on that. But the way you concluded it, and that's your belief and your understanding, I've seen a change in the way that you first talked to me when you first made your report, how fearful you were at the beginning, and how that's transitioned into a more positive outcome into a book format. So I'm really happy the most about how you've evolved as an experiencer. And I hope that I was able to at least encourage you to get to do that. But all in all, like, I want to say good job because you did it. You are putting yourself out there and you are sharing your experience. But I don't know what happened. I don't know if it's real. I don't know. That's you, right? I don't, so, and it's not we shouldn't call it a book because, like, a book implies it's like, it can go either way on interpretation, right? I would call it a experiencer testimony that's been documented, and you can purchase that on Amazon. Living in Two Worlds, a true account of alien encounters. Did I say that right?
It seems you did.
There you go. Species, you see, like, there's a whole bunch in that. And you got Pleiadians, what looks like to be Pleiadians. You have what looks like reptilians. You have what looks like the Men in Black. We really don't know what these things are. The only thing I can validate on that is that this experience is true and real to Lisa, and many others have seen the same thing and have experienced it differently. And then this book could be used as a tool to get other people to come forward. And because Lisa has made a report to Tessa, if anyone else makes a report that looks similar to the things that I'm aware of that's in that, I'm definitely going to want to talk to Lisa and then connect Lisa with this to have you guys do that. Because here's the thing, I can actually talk about this since Lisa brought it up and she's open about it. When Tanys had mentioned earlier in the conversation about meeting someone else that was in the same room as her experience, what I've been trying to do without revealing the information is waiting for someone to make a report that's similar, because maybe they were in the same spaceship. Because if they were in the same spaceship and then I get all the stuff and I work with them just as much I work with Lisa and all the other experiencers, many of them don't want to come forward and use their name, but I work with them just as hard. But if I could just find someone that says something that looks just like this and be like, hey, hold on a second, right? And then you guys got to talk. And then all of a sudden you guys are in the same room. That makes that case even more. So it's fascinating. It's intriguing. It's terrifying. I mean, it's an experience.
Yeah, and
So,
Lisa's a lifelong experiencer and
mhm,
has been a part of had these experiences all her life pretty much,
mhm.
and I'm wanting to read your book, Lisa. I haven't gotten to it yet, but I really would love to discuss with you doing a book review and posting it on the new website if you're open to that. I would really love to talk to you about that.
Which is another new feature that we're adding, which was kind of your idea, the Ultra Spectrum Library, right?
Yeah.
Which is going to be a collection of books and stories that we've read first and done reviews on. I will do my first book review at some point, maybe. There is a couple in order. Did you get that Control Factor book?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I owe him a review. So when you're done that, then we'll tag team that one.
Okay.
He was asking about it, but I've decided to purchase a book for an individual whom I've often detested, and I'm willing to give it the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to do a book review on it. So So he just recently came out. Chris Rutowski recently came out with his new book.
Did he? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, I pre-ordered it, but it'll be here like this week. So the reason for that is like if he's gonna do anything right, he's gonna do it in this book. Why? Because he's been writing this while I've been on his ass. Well, everyone's been on his ass. Now he's the superstar. Now he's all these other things, courtesy of me, lucky. But so I hope that if anything, he's going to cross his T's and dot his I's, and then I should be able to do a proper book review for the man as the individual by looking at this, and give an honest assessment of it. I'll have no choice but to say good things about it if it's accurate. But if it's as shitty as the things he's done in the past before he was called out on, I'm going to report on that too.
That's what a book review is: the good, bad, and the ugly, the nice and good.
So,
yeah.
And he didn't ask for it.
Well,
this is a non-sponsored book review.
Yeah.
A long time coming, but it'll also give me a chance to be humble and to eat my hat and be like, good job. There's so much about you I didn't really realize. You put so much effort in, and look at the effort, because personality aside, he's done a lot of work for the movement over the years here in Canada. He's just got a bad personality and an ego. But that's what happens when you're in media. It's all good.
His
right?
personality isn't bad. It's just ego gets in the way sometimes, and people don't want to humble themselves and say, "Okay, you're right, sir. I can do better, and I will."
It's because he worked hard. He worked really hard, and he's not getting validation as he deserves because there's other people attacking his work. It's not just me. There's other people not giving him the recognition he deserves. And when he doesn't get that recognition, he gets mad. He gets angry. He thinks someone's mad at me, and then he does things. But then he writes a book, and I'm hoping with all that energy, he just writes this goddamn good book, and then says that you think this is me, this is right, this is it, because he's been getting government information. He's been close to this for a long time. He now is the superstar of ufology in Canada if you watch the news.
Good night, Karen.
So he has all the possible views to be watching him right now. So the best thing for redemption is in this book, and I really hope it's there.
Well, let's see. So you'll have to put a picture or something. Let us know when you got it, because I had no idea that even came out. So
yeah, well, that's why I don't say things. I'm a private investigator. Remember, I got it before the UFO network knew about it.
Yeah. Well, I learned your PI. I think too. Maybe I should announce that we're going to have a very, very special episode of Beyond the Tinfoil Hat on June 9th. And I think I may have managed to surprise Ryan. I think you'll be surprised.
I haven't peeked, but I knew you had something up. There's a couple things that came in. I'm still not looking. I do have a couple requests, and I didn't know if you managed to deliver on those, but we'll wait. We'll see. Did you get me Lou? Is Lou Alzano going to be there?
No, Lou hates you.
I know he hates me. But it's my birthday. Come on.
I couldn't pull the strings for that one, but I think you'll be pleased regardless. I think it'll be fun.
No, it'll be all good. I'm excited, and I appreciate you doing all that extra stuff for that. And so my birthday episode would be June 9th. Cece will be traveling to my neck of the woods June 10th, which is the day after, which is my actual birthday. And then we have the Butter Tart Festival on the 11th, the day after, where if you guys are local and you're in Ontario, come to Midland and you will see Cece. There's going to be a booth there. I'll be there doing whatever I can to assist the team. Corey and Leanne, they will be there. They were in the chat, so if you're still listening, they're part of my Blacklight team. So they have the night off. Well, you know, circumstances aside, you guys were lucky enough to have the night off, but I'm glad you guys are relaxing and all that other stuff. So good week, all on all fronts. You had a good week too. We kicked some ass this week too.
It's been busy, but yeah, it certainly feels good to have tasks accomplished and moving forward on a lot of really great things.
Because everything's going to blow up. That's why I want to get them all done. Because as soon as we're there and we're introducing a new audience to this, they're going to be like, what? And then all of a sudden they're going to be like, David Petrella, who? And freaking, you know, all these things, astrology, you know, all these things. That's
Bye, Tanys. Right? Thanks so much.
See you later. So that's how it does it. Everything's going to blow up, and then you're going to be so busy with new business. I know things.
Fingers crossed. No, I'm really excited. Actually, I'm still. It still hasn't hit me that I'm going to be traveling down and we're going to meet in person yet. It hasn't quite hit. I think. I don't know how.
I'll just be like, Pope, you real?
Yeah, exactly.
Is this real life?
Yeah.
Yeah. That'll be cool.
Exactly.
Will be cool. All right, guys. We're 8 minutes over our agreed allotted time. Sorry, CC, I kept you 8 minutes late. But we got to go. Time to go. So tune in. See you tomorrow night for Dave Petrella's East of Astrology. I don't know. Anything else?
I think that's everything. I can't think of anything on the spot like that. I just put the link to Dave's show in again so everyone has it. And it's on the channel, like you know. So hopefully we'll see you there because I think it's going to be fascinating. I'm really looking forward to it.
All right. Thanks for watching.
Heed the world.
Peace. Bye-bye.